What I need to do now is I need to make sure that I configure the trunk lines necessary for the two switches to be able to communicate. So I'm going to go into global configuration mode. I'm going to access F0/23, which is my first trunk line, and I'm going to execute the command which is called switch port mode trunk. What this will do is turn on trunking on fast Ethernet 23. In addition, I've got to specify what trunk encapsulation I would like to use, or what trunking protocol. So I'm going to use the switch trunk encapsulation command, and we can go ahead and use ISL, or inter-switch link, for our encapsulation. Now I need to do the exact same thing with the other line that we're using for redundancy, which is number 24. So I use my up arrow for recall. I'm going to run the same commands here: switch port mode trunk and switch port trunk encapsulation ISL. Now at this point, I've got my VLANs. I have my VTP server and domain configured properly, and I've configured the local end of the trunk lines. What I'm going to have to do now is to exit out. I'm going to have to now manually console over to the switch B switch. We've got to realize that as soon as you make one end a trunk, it will cut off communications between those two switches until the other end is also done. So we're going to go ahead and cut over to the switch B. And it's giving me a message here as I console in, letting me know that everything is up or down. I now have console access to the switch B switch, which we will get logged into and then enabled. And if you take a look here, I'm doing a show VLAN. You will notice that all I have is the default VLANs at this time, and that's because this switch has not been configured for trunking. It has also not been configured as a client in the ICND VTP domain. So let's start off by actually configuring the trunk mode. By configuring the trunk, we will allow messages to be passed between the switches. So I'm going to go into global configuration mode, then access my fast Ethernet 0/23, run my commands again: switch port mode trunk and switch port trunk encapsulation. Make sure it's the same on this end as well. The ISL trunk port protocol has got to be used. We'll do the same thing with fast Ethernet 24, and I have now configured a two-way trunk between the switches. They can now communicate properly with the ISL trunking protocol.